Welcome to the third episode of Road to the Oscars 2025. In the first two episodes, we talked about Emilia Perez and we talked about Conclave. And now it's time for Anora with 6 Oscar nominations. And this is, of course, the series of videos in which I am talking about all the major Oscar nominated movies. So if you still haven't, please subscribe to the channel, it will support me a lot. But before the movie itself, we have to talk about Sean Baker. We have to take a moment and talk about Sean Baker. Sean Baker is one of those few people who writes his own movie, or at least co-writes his own movie, who directs his own movie, and who edits his own movie as well. And fair enough, after those 6 categories, the movie has been nominated in 4 categories, which kind of belongs to Sean Baker himself. And if you don't know, let me tell you, he made a movie on an iPhone 5S. Yeah, a full feature length movie. And there's one theme in every Sean Baker movie that you will see is people living on paycheck to paycheck basis, like they are just one step away of getting kind of homeless, and most often they rely on doing some kind of sex work. So that's a theme in perhaps every Sean Baker movie, and it is essentially the theme in Anora as well. But why does Anora feel so good? The reason is performance and a very differently written screenplay. How? We'll talk about that. Now, everyone was describing this movie as a Cinderella movie which turns into a kind of a very different movie. And of course, that's the whole movie. I watched the movie and the first thought that came to my mind was a fairy tale gone wrong. There's a big pivot in the movie. In fact, I talked about this on my letterbox as well. If you want, you can follow me on letterbox too. So the thing is, the movie gets you in, the movie welcomes you in with all these fairy tale kind of things which are shown. We have this girl called as Annie. She does sex work for a living, and from the outside she is smiling, she is happy, she looks smiling, she attends to everyone with a lot of care, a lot of warmth. But underneath that, we can see whenever she is at her home, she is not quite well with her roommate, she is not quite well doing with her life. And then suddenly she finds this jackpot of a guy. And there's this very interesting thing about this guy. She was not even willing to attend him. And she gets forced into attending him, and she kind of hits this big jackpot. Now, when the story progresses further, there is one question that comes to your mind, and that is Annie really in love with this guy, or she's doing this only for the money? And the obvious answer is because of the money, but there are subtle hints and there are subtle moments where you realize that nah, there may be something more. There may be something more to Annie's intentions, and those are not foul intentions. Those are actually intentions driven by affection, driven by attraction, driven by love, which they are so deprived of. In her line of work, she can't be attached to anyone. And now this guy, she finds out this guy, she's happy with him, she can be herself with him, and she really feels like she has hit a jackpot. And that was that fairy tale-ish nature that welcomes you in the movie, and then it hits you with a big twist. Now, they getting married was not a big twist, but of course, Ivan's family finding out, and even then you are like, okay, Annie just married him for his money so she can divorce him. It won't be a big deal. But the moment she is so resistant that no, I won't divorce, I won't get an annulment, that is the time where you're still thinking whether she loves this guy or she's still doing this for the money, that she has hit this jackpot so she don't want to give up that jackpot. In that dilemma itself, almost the whole movie goes by. But if you are able to catch those subtle hints from Annie's perspective, you kind of realize that yeah, she is kind of into this guy. But at the end, we also realize, and Annie also realizes, that it was just a fairy tale dream gone wrong, because the guy she married was just a boy. He was not a man, he was just a boy, and that was never going to last. But she was clouded by that whole fairy tale nature, clouded her judgment, and therefore she was just quite adamant on saying no to the whole world. She couldn't take no for an answer. She just can't imagine that the jackpot that she hit, it will go wrong, because she is doing this kind of a work where you just look for a way out. You just look for a big jackpot which pulls you out of this thing, which pulls you out of this job, which pulls you out of this situation. And she got that. So she was so adamant on not leaving that. And at the end, she realizes that was not true love. But I have to mention the final scene of the movie here. Okay, we'll talk about that later because there's a lot to talk about there. So this was all about the screenplay and it was all about praising the movie. But now we have to talk about Mikey Madison. She was out and out the star of the movie, apart from the screenplay, of course. She did everything in this movie. She was shouting, she was seducing people, she was smiling when she was not supposed to, she was doing everything, she was fighting people, she was screaming as hell. She was doing everything in this movie, and Mikey Madison deserves her Oscar nominations. She was a powerhouse, a big powerhouse in this movie. And there are a lot of small nuances that she did while acting, and those kind of nuances you only pull off when you are totally immersed in the character, and those kind of nuances really makes you feel that, yeah, this is a very good actor, this is a very self-aware actor, this is a very present actor. And Mikey did that a few times as well. Now, after we hit that big pivot point, after that, there are a lot of things which you kind of find funny. And there's this thing again with all the Sean Baker movies, that for the most part of the movie, you are just wondering where this movie is going, what could be the end of the movie. And perhaps right at the start of the third act of the movie, there's this big turn, or there's this big mishap that happens, or this big thing happens, and then we get a very different movie. And with Anora, they tried to do that as well, but they were planning to do that for a long time since the introduction of these guys. And in fact, this guy is in every Sean Baker movie. Now, if you've seen the movie, I am sure you must have fell in love with this guy's acting, Yura Borisov. And in fact, when the movie ended, I was kind of like, this guy acted pretty well. And then I looked up on the internet and I found out that he is nominated for the best actor in a supporting role, and I was so happy. And then I read more about it, and it turned out that this was a historic nomination. I was extremely happy for that guy. Now, as we are talking about this guy, we have to talk about the climax of the movie. Now, in the climax of the movie, Sean Baker tries to turn this movie on its head by presenting the ring that Igor kept to himself, because he knew that Mikey Madison's character, Annie, doesn't, she won't get a lot of money from these Russian people. So he kind of kept that ring, and then he presented that ring to her, and that ring in fact meant a lot of things. And the fact that just before that night, Mikey Madison's character Annie was so adamant on saying that you would have raped me, that you would have absolutely raped me. And he was kind of shocked. And while I was watching the scene, I was like, that's a very heartbreaking scene. It just then and there, because we have seen, for all money, we have seen that Igor was such a nice, such a sweet little guy, not little, but such a sweet guy, and he wouldn't have done that. But then you are thinking along the lines from the perspective of Annie and what she must have felt, because she's this good looking girl and all those things. So it kind of made sense from Annie's perspective as well. But then it hits us even hard when Igor is the guy who presents that ring to Annie, and we are as shocked as Annie is. And of course, this is the kind of a movie where you just sit after the movie ends. You just sit there, you just see the credits roll, and you just sit there. There are a very few movies which does that. But yeah, this one did it for me. So basically, the screenplay of this movie, the performance, everything was top notch in this movie. And even in the screenplay, perhaps the first 30 odd minutes where we are shown this whole fairy tale kind of things, that's so essential to make us believe what Annie is doing, to make us believe that Annie married this guy, and to make us believe that Annie is fighting for this guy. That those 30 minutes were so essential for that, because that clouds the judgment of Annie, and that is supposed to cloud the judgment of us as well. That's why the first 30 odd minutes were so essential. Now I'm saying 30 minutes, but you have to understand, I'm saying it until the part they get married and the Russian people shows up. So now, as every video, at the end, let's talk about the Oscar nominations. The movie has been nominated in 6 categories, as I said, and it's been nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Editor. And out of these 6 nominations, 4 nominations kind of belongs to one man, Sean Baker himself. There's one thing that I want to mention about Sean Baker, that Sean Baker is one of those directors who just makes low budget or mid budget indie movies, individual movies. And this huge Oscar buzz absolutely will benefit him, and I hope it benefits him. Alright, so anyways, I absolutely love the movie Anora. And it's one of my favorite movies of the year. So what about the next movie? The next movie we are going to cover on this channel is going to be Nosferatu. Yeah, Nosferatu is coming. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, please watch the movie, so that when I make the next video, you will be up and running to engage in the conversation as well. And if you have seen Anora, please go down in the comment section and please share your thoughts about Anora as well. You can follow me on Letterboxd as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching.